Alright, what we're going to do is create our code for our car. So make sure you've got your coded car open. You probably don't have two. If you're working just with code, you don't need to keep both of them. I'm just keeping both of them for the tutorials. And we're opening the step event. Hopefully that all works for you. You've got your collision with the test wall, collision with the boost, etc. from before. Your bullet code. What we need to do is, looking at what we did before, first of all, we need to check if the user pushes control. So if keyboard underscore check vk underscore control, put in our little curly braces, and then what we're going to do is check if the number of instances of the bullets. Okay, so this is going to be, we'll have to just have a look and see. It will probably be instance, and it's either going to be instance count or instance number. So the way to figure that out is to use the help menu up here. And the reason I'm doing this instead of just telling you is because this is the process I go through if ever I program anything. So instance count display, and it will tell me how it works. So I go down and find instance count. Where is it? I can't seem to see it here. It doesn't look like instance count. It's the right one anyway. Instance number. And the reason I can tell it's not the right one is it doesn't accept any argument. So I can't possibly tell it what instance to actually check. But instance number, and this one doesn't look like it's here either. Instance number, here we go. And it says here, returns the number of instances of type obj. Obj can be an object or the keyword all. So if I type instance number all, it's going to tell me how many instances in total are in the program. And an instance is a kind of a copy of the object that we've defined. This time, if I type in the name of the object in here, it's going to tell me how many of those there are. So if instance underscore number, and it's called obj bullet, that's the one. If that is greater than less than 4, then we can do this. And what I'm going to do is create moving. That doesn't look like it's the right one. So we'll just check and see what the right one is. Index, create moving, search, create moving, control actions. That's not a control action. We'll have to check and see where this might be. Instance create, there it is. Instance create. And I don't know if we can actually create it and make it moving. But there is a different way to do this. Okay, and this is where some of the programming gets a little bit tricky. I'm going to make a variable called new bullet equals instant create xy obj, and it's going to be obj underscore bullet. So what it does is it creates, this is going to create a new bullet, but it's going to store the ID of the new bullet, of that particular bullet, in here. Then I'm going to go new bullet dot direction. That is a property of that bullet that I just created, equals direction, and that's the direction of the car that this script is attached to. New bullet dot speed equals 12. So these dot notations mean that this is a property of this object here. Hopefully that's how it will work. So let's just check that. It doesn't give me any error. I'll make sure that I put that guy in the room, so test car code. Okay, so that does work, and I can only shoot 3 at a time. The bullet bounces and it deletes. So I'll go back into here, and I do need to change that, whoops, test car code. I do need to change this down here to check underscore pressed, so that it's not constantly doing it. So this is probably the hardest bit that you will have to understand in here. OBJ bullet is the name of an object. However, if I just type obj bullet.direction equals direction, it's going to change it on every single bullet object. When I create this bullet though, I'm assigning it to a temporary variable. Okay, as soon as I create a new one, this variable is destroyed and it points to the new one, but it doesn't matter because as soon as I create it, I'm then assigning it a particular direction. So this is a property of that, and then this is a property of this object. So I'm assigning them that. If I then happen to change what this is, it doesn't matter because the other objects have already had their properties assigned. They're still going to be moving and bouncing and whatever. So this here, if you don't understand that, I would recommend not worrying about the code at the moment and just focusing solely on the drag and drop. But if you get what's happening here, then this coding stuff will be probably the way that you should go for your internal. Because if you understand this, there's a lot you can do with GameMaker that you won't be able to do with drag and drop. There are some things in drag and drop that you can do. For example, if I do add event on the bullet, for example. And if I open up the bullet, here's the bullet, add event, collide with boost. Now, if I collide with boost and I click destroy instance, I can destroy itself, I can destroy the other object, or I can destroy a particular object when I collide with the boost. So for example, this here is, well, let's just do something here. So variable other speed 4. Now this is stupid and it's going to look really weird, but as soon as the bullet touches the boost symbol is going to start moving. So I can do that in GameMaker. Okay, so they'll start moving. That's just what I've told it to do. And that's because I've used the other. And speed is a property of the other object. If I did it on self, it's going to change the speed of the bullet to 4, which would be weird. I could do destroy self, and I could also destroy the other. I can't do both at the same time. I've got to send it to destroy instances. So it destroys it in itself. Okay, so you could use that to, knock down walls, whatever you want to do with it. And that's really, really, really useful to understand how these self and other bit work. We will be looking at that more in the drag and drop detail when we put some AI in. But for the next one, the player, which is the other program I've got open, this one here, I'm just going to do it on this guy here, so not the platformer, mainly because it's pretty much the same. So in the step event, down the bottom, I might actually just create a new step event for this, a new code for this. And what we're going to do is, back in create, we're going to have a new variable, facing equals 1, doesn't really matter. Step in here, facing equals 4 was up, facing equals 1 was right, facing equals 2 was down, facing equals 3 was left. And I don't want to set it in here, I just want to leave it as whatever it was last. So in here, if keyboard underscore check pressed VK control, we're going to do this stuff. And if facing equals right, if facing equals 1, then we will do this. And here's where I use that same code again. New bullet equals instance create xy obj bullet. And if I want it to be in the center, remember we're going to have to go x plus 8, y plus 8. New bullet dot direction equals, this is right, so it's going to be 0. Now I'm not going to worry about the speed, and I'll show you why in a sec. I'm just going to copy and paste this a few times. And I actually don't need this here. I'm going to put that right up here. You want to make sure that you're not being redundant with the code that you're working with. So there's sometimes no need to have a whole lot of code in there. So if facing equals 2, that's down, so that's 270. If facing equals 3, that's 180. And if facing equals 4, that's 90. And the next thing we want to do is right at the bottom, after we set that, new bullet dot speed equals 12. Now the reason this is going to work, and I don't need to set the put all this stuff in each of these, is because I'm creating the bullet once. It always gets created at that position. It doesn't matter which direction it's facing, it's always created at that central position. Then the only thing that's going to affect which direction it is the value of facing. So if facing is equal 1, new bullet dot direction equals 0. If facing is equal 2, etc. And then we set the speed. It's always going to be moving at speed 12, so I don't need to set that in here. And the last thing I might want to check is end instance count obj bullet is less than 4, less than 3. So I can put an and there, and so I want to check, is the keyboard pressed and is there less than 3 bullets? Then I can do this. And it's pretty much the same with the platformer. Oops, I used the wrong one, didn't I? Test player code. It's object number, not count. Count would be the better one to use. I haven't actually put it in there. So let's go in, put that guy in my room. So now, oh, it's meant to be plus 16, not plus 8. Okay, so that still works. I'm not going to do the code for the bullet. Okay, I think that it's pretty straightforward here, and I don't think you need to make it more difficult by coding some of this stuff out. Sometimes it's easier just to go with what's here rather than take the complicated route, because in order to code this, I'll just do it really quickly. It's going to be a bit more convoluted than what you might think. So add event, step, to code a collision where you need to check all different sides. So it's going to be if place meeting x plus 1 y, and we've got, what's it called, object test wall, or place meeting x minus 1 y obj underscore test wall. Now or is another condition kind of like and, except only one of these has to be true. X y minus 1 obj test wall, or place meeting x y plus 1 obj test wall. If any of those is true, and I probably should place them on one line, but I think it'll work fine if I place them on separate lines. If any of those is true, think instance destroy, yep, instance destroy, I think self is what we want in there. So we want to destroy self. So let's just check that. I'll delete this one. Let's try it without that at all. It might just be a function that doesn't accept anything. Okay, so that does work. So it's not self, it's just instance destroy. But you see what it's doing is it's got to check all the positions around it. And so unless you're familiar with this kind of coding, then it's going to be quite difficult for you to do. And so I'm not bothered if you want to go coding or whichever. It's good to challenge yourself. If you can understand the coding, try and do it. But some things like this, it's just easier and quicker to just go collision with the wall and then just tell it to destroy itself. Even if you really want to use coding, it would just be better to go instance destroy. Get yourself into the kind of the rhythm of how it works, rather than making it really difficult on yourself if this is the first time you've ever done it. So you can still put code in there and it's still going to destroy the instance, but it just means you don't have to have that extra check to make sure. Oops, that's getting too far. Okay, so it's still working either way.